And you know how it is. Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you all for joining us. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. I do want to let you know that Thank You Thursdays from St. Ignatius School, K through 8, I believe, in Meridian, Idaho. Yes, that's the first year of the school. We'll be there promoting our schools and securing our future, but we will also be giving away tickets to the Boise Music Festival, June 23rd. We're looking forward to seeing you there with Parmalee, with Skeezy, Wheezy, Beezy, and, of course, Robin Thicke. So if you want your tickets, listen Thursday for Thank You Thursdays every Thursday morning with Kevin Miller. Also, we do want to remind you, a week from Thursday, a lot going on Thursdays. We will be at Terry's Cafe in Meridian for our Unity breakfast. We're asking everyone who's run for office, since our primary is Tuesday, to come by and unite for the greater cause of the Republican Party. So we've got a lot going on there, and Democrats welcome as well. Great food, great fun. Thursday morning, the 17th at Terry's Cafe in Meridian. Joining us now from the Republican National Committee, our friend Mark Lauder. Mark, good to have you back.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Kind of reminiscent of your old days in local media when we're talking about going out and doing remotes and events.
Yeah, that does take me back a little bit.
It does indeed. So let's talk a little bit about the president and the Iranian deal. He's tweeting this morning already, but what do you think, as someone who has worked with him extensively, what do you think went into his decision to say, we'll be seeing you, Iran?
Well, I think two things. Number one, this is something that he was very upfront with the American people on during the campaign and since he's taken office. And so he felt the need to fulfill that commitment. But I think even more so than that, this was a terrible deal. And we shouldn't forget that even Democrats, top Democrats, back after Obama announced this thing, came out opposed to it. Chuck Schumer rightfully said that it wasn't going to do anything to stop Iran's activities. Senator Bob Menendez, a Democrat from New Jersey, said it wasn't going to end Iran's nuclear program. It was going to preserve it. And that's why the Obama administration never took this thing to the United States Senate, because they knew it had no chance of getting passed. And when you look at what Iran is doing, destabilizing the Middle East, still developing ballistic missiles, and the Iran deal did nothing about that. It looked the other way. And this is a president that said, no, we're not going to cover over their activities in hopes of just drawing down a short-term pause on their nuclear ambitions, which at the end of the day still results with them having the bomb.
And, of course, we take a look at former President Obama's decision to do this. This was without Congress approving a treaty. This was with Ben Rhodes saying that it was, he had to kind of play games with the truth and stuff. This was a bad deal to begin with.
Absolutely. It's something that everyone agreed at the time, and it's one of the reasons why the president was so strong on this during the campaign and throughout his time in office. Let's remember, what we're seeing happening in Iran is the exact same thing that was going on in North Korea in reverse. In the early 90s, North Korea detonated a nuclear weapon, but had no way of getting it delivered on a missile. And it's taken them 25 years since then to do that, which obviously happened earlier, in the president's term, and the president's actively working on that. This deal, where Iran was pretty close to having the bomb, basically put that on hold while they delivered the missiles to deliver those weapons. And at the end of the day, later in the next 10 to 12 years, they would have both. And this is a president who's not going to kick the can down the road like previous presidents of both political parties, when it came to North Korea or now with Iran, that 12 years from now, one of the next presidents would have had to have dealt with Iran with the missiles and the weapons. And this is the president said, no, we're not going to do it. We're going to take care of the issue right now.
Well, that is reassuring. Of course, the economy's on fire. Everything's rolling. And yet, Mark, look, you're a media guy. You know the score. It's funny. Barack Obama had this faux unemployment rate that wasn't what it was, and yet the president has real life, real numbers, real people working, and he can't get a break.
Well, the thing I tell you, though, is that when you look at the approval numbers here since December and over the last many weeks, they've seen an exponential increase, and that's because I think the American people are actually seeing through the hyperbole and whatever comes out of Washington D.C. media and what they might be fascinated with and distracted by at the moment. Because when the Americans are opening up their paychecks, they're seeing more money. Millions are getting bonuses. They see that we just set a new record for jobs available right now, 6.6 million. While at the same time, unemployment's at the lowest rate that we've had in 18 years. That gives you more options as a person out there to go, I might be able to go get a new job. Or if you're an employer, says, I'm going to have to pay you more to keep you at my job. Those are good things for the American people. They see good things happening on the world stage. And while many people may disagree on whether the president's tweeting something or how he says it or the words he might use, they're also saying, look at the results. And they're liking the results.
It is interesting when we take a look at just how things are going and yet how they're portrayed. Mark, how do you see the midterms playing out? What's the plan at the RNC?
I think it's going to be really simple in that we've got the results as we were just talking about, and the only thing the other side has is resistance. But you literally had Nancy Pelosi earlier this week talking about how she will be the next Speaker of the House and she will undo the president's tax cuts that have put more money in people's pockets and is helping create more jobs. That's a very simple contrast. It's results versus resistance. And as long as Republicans nominate people who can win in November and take that message to the voters, I think we're going to be in a very good place. I think we had good results come out of the primaries yesterday in West Virginia, Indiana, Ohio, North Carolina. And as more states have their primaries here in the upcoming weeks and months, the one thing I would ask Republicans is, A, get out to vote. We need you in your primary, and we also need you in the general election. But 2, remember that we've got to make sure we nominate people who can win in November. And even if your candidate of choice may or may not win that primary, let's all come together at the end and remember, in November, the president needs people in the United States Senate and the House of Representatives who are going to support the agenda and continue the growth that we're seeing.
Mark Lauder joining us, Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. You take a look at the headwinds of the media and the Democratic Party working in tandem. It's amazing that you, the vice president, the president, and others were so successful. Can that formula be replicated in the midterms, considering historically the party in power in the White House does lose some seats in Congress?
Yeah, and that's the historical trend, and I'm not going to say that that there aren't those headwinds. I think we are actually looking very good at actually growing our majority in the United States Senate. I think there's a number of opportunities there to pick off seats where Democrats are locked against the president, but in states and with voters that strongly supported the president in 2016. The House is a little bit of a different challenge, but I think we are going to continue to keep the majorities there. And I do have faith that if we can continue taking our message to the American people, if we can keep getting the results that they asked for, that they will realize that things are going in the right direction and we need to do more than just resistance. So we'll keep up the message. We'll keep putting the pressure on, and ultimately the president's just going to keep doing what he said he was going to do. And I think Republicans will be in a really good position come November.
Mark Lauder joining us from the RNC, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. What do you make of the challenge at the RNC? And even though this president certainly has bucked every historical trend to date, the number of people in the House in particular that are stepping down, Mark, you know this, you deal with this all the time, and getting good people to fill those seats. I mean, you're replacing a lot of big-name talent.
Yes, and I do think there are a number of reasons for that. I mean, obviously, some of them are local, some of them are political, some of them are also structural in terms of people who've been chairmen and they're rotating out of the chairmanships of their committees and things. But I think when you look at the people that we're going to be able to bring in filling these seats, I think that it's good to have that turnover. I think it's good to shake things up, as long as we remember that ultimately we've got to nominate people who can win. Then I think we're going to be in a good place, and that doesn't mean that we might lose a few seats here and there. And I think that's just the natural order of things. But I'm confident we'll keep the majority in the House and expand our majority in the Senate, and then it's and then we'll just keep doing what the president needs to get done.
And we want to take nothing for granted, but Mark, what would it mean if those majorities stay intact when we're talking about the Supreme Court, when we're talking about the second half of the president's first term?
It's absolutely critical. As we've already started to see, and it's just starting to get a little bit of coverage right now, but one of the biggest successes of the president that really hasn't gone noticed very much is his fundamental shaking up of the federal judiciary. He has confirmed more judges and appellate court judges than I believe any president in recent memory. We have a chance, obviously, with the confirmation of Justice Gorsuch to restore the conservative majority on the Supreme Court. There are a number of other seats on the court that could come open in the coming years. So having a Senate, having the House, having both, continue to have that Republican leadership is absolutely critical. And the best part about it is that the president is nominating young, talented jurists who have the potential to sit on these benches for many decades, which is going to make sure that we continue to respect the Constitution, the rule of law for many years to come.
And finally, Mark, I don't know. Do you ever take any day off? Do you get to go like on Sundays? Do you monitor the shows, or is it a day off for you? I know you get briefings and stuff, but
no, I have to monitor the shows. Typically, every so often, I might sneak out and try to get around to golfing. But these jobs, whether you're inside the White House or outside, still connected to the administration. I mean, they're temporary positions, and you have the opportunity to help shape the future of our great country, and so they do require a significant commitment. But it's absolutely an honor to be able to do it, and so we still can sneak away a little bit here and there, and I try to do some things, personally and with our families. But they do take up a lot of our time.
No, I was going to say I was with you on that, because it was just odd that on Sunday George Stephanopoulos took 16 minutes on the Stormy Daniels thing before he got even to Robert Mueller or anything else, and I understand that it, maybe a couple minutes, but it was just a shocking to see him going back and forth with America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani on something that really is outside the purview of the independent counsel. And as a journalist, and as a former journalist, and perhaps you'll be one again, who managed newsrooms and understand the idea of, what to focus on, I just wanted your take on that.
Yeah, I mean, the media does, it is consumed by things that they believe that are important. And unfortunately, and I think we're seeing it in their ratings and otherwise, it's not what the American people think. And I saw a poll a few weeks ago from Quinnipiac that said less than 1/4 of Americans, including a majority of Democrats, really don't think this whole Michael Cohen's Stormy Daniels is an important issue, yet it dominates media coverage. And it just shows how out of touch they are, that they continue to still focus on the things that the American people just don't find to be important.
Mark Lauder, we really appreciate you. Thank you for sharing your morning with us.
No, thank you much, Kevin. Always good to be with you.
Thank you, sir. All right, Mark Lauder joining us from the RNC. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. The president does the right thing with the Iranian deal. We'll get your thoughts next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And the Treasure Valley's station for talk on AM, as Sean Hannity just said, at 580 AM and 107.5 FM. Blessed to be a part of your day. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Your thoughts on the president saying sayonara to the Iranian deal. Of course, the libs, like they always are angry. Wouldn't it be nice to just hang out with a happy lib? Let's go to Jerry in Boise with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Jerry.
Terry.
Terry. Hi, Terry. How are you?
Oh, you've helped me get through some real bad times. I'm your number one fan.
Well, I pray for you and your family every day, brother. So that is true.
I really appreciate it. I think the prayers helped me get through, but I had a lot of complications, and I've been in and out of the hospital. And I don't know if I become ignorant or what, but I just don't understand. Maybe you can clarify it with me, for me, rather. When they're saying they're going to try to impeach our President Trump, what is that based on? How can they impeach somebody who hasn't done anything wrong?
Well, in their mind, with the Russian investigations, with the trumped-up allegations, they're looking for anything. And, you know, it's just like this whole thing of, Terry, whether or not he's going to testify with Mueller and Stephanopoulos over the weekends going, well, if he didn't lie, he has nothing to fear. Tell that to Martha Stewart and others. When you go in with these prosecutors, it's not about the truth. It's about gotcha. You know, it's kind of, Terry, it's kind of like when they bring in somebody, a new person in the office, okay? And maybe they're good, maybe they're not, but they're going to get the benefit of the doubt because it's not about that person. It's about the person that put them in place. And that's Mueller's job, is to justify his existence.
Well, I just feel it's insane just to say they can try to impeach him when he was legally voted into office by the people of this country, and I just don't understand it. You know, I think we ought to take a look at why Antonin Scalia, his death, and his family mentioned that, you know, he didn't sleep like that. His room was, I don't know, I think he was taken out because they thought that Hillary was going to win so they could appoint more people to the Supreme Court, and I wish they would investigate his death a lot more. I think that's a lot more serious. And when people say he didn't sleep like he did, and how they found him, and it just looks to me very suspicious the way that investigation was just pushed along and hushed up, and then just have the funeral.
Well, I would agree with you, and like I said, the deep state strikes. And by the way, my mom says hello to you, Terry.
Oh, I really appreciate her. Tell her I appreciate her.
Well, she's listening right now, so
that's great. He's got a wonderful son. I told him that your parents raised a good man, and you're very, very, very good. I just this thing between the people, between Russ Fulcher and other people running for that position, and do you have a favorite yourself?
You know, I'm an open funnel on that one. We let the candidates earn it every time they want to come on the air. We're going to have a few more on. They're always welcome. But, you know, one thing I've learned in my time here, we can't do their job for them. So we can say, call into Ray Amaya to schedule some time and make your case to the populace. And there are some races that we're not covering, but the major ones we are. And, you know, we'll see what happens. What about you?
Yeah, I wish that people would talk a little more like the electrical grid, hardening that. I feel that's a major issue in this country with all the hacking and everything else is going on, and sunbursts and things of that nature. Hardening the grid, I think, would be an important issue to take up. You know, as an independent state, we could do it and get it started, get the ball rolling. But individual states can do it.
Well, that's a good point. When we speak to the lieutenant governor this morning, we'll ask him about that.
And that I really appreciate that. Now, I hope this Valley appreciates you. You should get that Man of the Year award. I didn't want to dump on the Tea Party Bob and his thing. That was more of an inside thing, but I just wish that to be recognized that way in the paper and get a plaque and have these people on the outside recognize how much you're doing for the schools and making us aware of what's going on in our politics and the rescue mission. Everything that you do is, you're a remarkable human being. You really are. And I just feel that you should have that recognition, having the Man of Year Award, that you cover so many topics for the people in Idaho, from the schools and everything. It's just amazing what you've been able to do and how you get the ball rolling and get other people motivated and get them out of their shell of being passive on.
Well, Terry, we got to run, but God bless.
You too. You take care of yourself, stay in good health, and I think God's going to reward you for all the wonderful things you do, and thank you very much.
Well, don't be a stranger. We want to hear from you more, okay, when you can.
I'd like to come to that breakfast, but I just don't think I can physically make it this time.
Well, Terry, you're in my prayers, okay?
Well, I appreciate that. I really, really, really do, and I think that's helped me get through all this, and hearing you in the mornings in the hospital and here and at home and everything. You're a person that keeps people motivated and helps them get through their problems like mine. I don't know how you feel about that CBD oil, but I don't know. I think that is a great thing for people with cancer.
Terry, I'm with you. I got to run, though.
Okay. Love you. Take care.
Love you, Terry. Bye-bye. Traffic and weather to get much more of your phone calls next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. KIDO Talk Radio, Kevin Miller in the morning. Before we get to our in-studio guest, we're going to go to Liberty Linda. Good morning, Liberty Linda. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin. You know, aren't we having an exciting race for governor of Idaho?
I would say yes.
Yes, and I think that this is one that we will always remember. And, you know, anyway, so, well, you know, I'm for Tommy Alquist, that I really believe that, you know, he is a solid conservative and he has great ideas for our state here, and that he will start implementing those ideas right away. And I think people will say, hey, you know what? I'm glad, I'm glad that Tommy Alquist has actually won governor of Idaho. So,
well, what do you make of the people that are not down with Dr. Alquist? We've heard from them on the show too. Here's your chance to defend him.
Yeah, well, once he's won governor, he's going to start implementing those things that he's been dreaming of for Idaho, and so that's what I'm looking forward to.
All right.
Because I do believe in him, and I can't wait to hear those words. Oh, we're really glad that he won governor. But what an exciting race! You've brought the excitement to the people here, and we thank you for that, Kevin.
Well, I couldn't do it if no one was listening, so I thank you for giving us the time of day.
Oh, we love listening, always, always. And like I said, I'll always vote for you, Kevin.
Well, we run for office every morning, so thank you, Liberty Linda.
Yeah, and you have a wonderful day, Kevin.
You have a blessed day. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Joined in studio by Alex Gallegos, who is here running for Congress, a veteran, a native of Canyon County, a man that can remember the old skating rink back in the day when it was owned by the former principal of Nampa High. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Kevin.
So you're still in this race. You're still running. You're still fighting. What's it going to take to pull off what some would say a political upset of the century?
An improbable task, right? I think 2018 is shaping up to be an interesting year for upsets. And I liken it to the biblical David and Goliath, right? No one thought David had a chance. And we saw in the NCAA tournament, I'm a big sports fan, a number 16 seat defeat a number 1 seat, UMBC versus Virginia. And then we just saw, first time since 1882, in the Kentucky Derby, a 3-year-old who never ran as a 2-year-old win the race. So I like to think 2018 is going to be the year that Alex Gallegos defeats a field of candidates who, quite frankly, have had their turn.
I was with you until you went with horse racing. I don't know if I can really jump into that one, but let's talk a little bit about your strategy on the trail and the issues that people are talking to you about. Because, it's funny, we have this perception of running for office where people speak a lot, but I would imagine you're doing a lot more listening than you are speaking.
Absolutely, and you could appreciate this being in the field that you're in. Sometimes your receive has to be better than your transmit. and I do a lot of receiving because I think it's important.
Right.
Transmitting is fine, but you should never pontificate until you are the subject matter expert, is what I've learned in life. And sometimes listening is much better. You get a better result after you listen to people who it really impacts.
So back to the point, I think you're doing what a politician does. You didn't answer my question, Alex.
I'm getting better.
Here at KIDO Talk Radio. So what are people saying to you?
For sure. I think people are concerned. They don't want the status quo. Yesterday I attended a Canyon County Republican Women's Forum, and I had a very nice senior elderly lady come up to me, and she whispered in my ear, "Hey, I voted for you." And I thought that was
that was a victory.
That was a victory, small victory, and we learned in the Army and military, small victories matter. So they're tired of the status quo. They really are tired of lawyers and politicians who, have had their turn to get things done, and now they want to go to Washington, D.C. and do the same thing. So I think that's the first thing. And then people are really concerned about some real issues, national security, our budget, our deficit. And in Idaho, people are concerned, obviously, about education and jobs as well. So I think those are kind of healthcare. Everyone's concerned about healthcare. The big ticket items everyone cares about, and I mostly listen, and I try to see what Idahoans want and expect from the representatives.
You don't sound like you're awake here this morning.
Oh, I'm awake. I got this cup of Joe right here. I am good.
I was going to say, you must be tired from pounding all those signs. Let's talk about your experience for people that didn't catch you the last time you were on with us here
for sure
at KIDO Talk Radio, because you've served our nation. You continue to want to serve. In fact, on great personal and professional sacrifice, you retired early from the military as a lieutenant colonel with quite an extensive background to come back to run for office because you believe so much, not only in your hometown, but your hometown area.
Absolutely. I did retire early. I could have stayed as long as I wanted, really. But I wanted to give back, and I think I talked about this last time. Selfless service is important to me. Our family knows sacrifice. I shared this story last time, and I had some people say thanks for sharing your personal story. I think it says a lot about you and your character. My son's father was killed in Afghanistan in 2004. Through the things that we've endeavored in our own family and our own sacrifices, I felt that it was time to come back and give back in a meaningful way. And right now is the time with an open seat. And like you said, to start the show, an improbable task. We're used to challenges, and that's what I wanted to do, was come back to Idaho. My family is still in Virginia. That's no secret to a lot of folks. We will continue to live in separate households as long as we have to. If I win this race, we'll have two separate households, and they will stay in Virginia, and I'll stay here and work for the people of Idaho.
You were talking about your son's father, but he was your best friend.
He was a friend. I wouldn't say he was my best friend.
Well, you were very close to him. I don't want to leave the witness. Right.
We were, yes, and I shared the story before.
Right, but for people that don't know, because as much as I would love people to be riveted to every second, every moment, and their lives revolve around this show, and if it does, God bless you. You are in my prayers. If it doesn't, well, you're not in my prayers. But just for people that, again, are flipping in and out, maybe they've discovered 107.5 FM, and your story is one that it never gets old. Now, for you, my friend, you're like, oh, dude, not again. But for us, you're introducing yourself to a whole set of people, a new set of people all the time, sir. For
sure. So I'll go ahead and share then the story and be as brief as possible. So Dan was a member of the 3rd Special Forces Group. He was a Special Forces officer, as you noted earlier. Special Forces men and women are elite of the elite, and Dan was certainly epitomized everything that you would expect of a Special Forces officer. He believed in his country. He loved America, and really what he wanted to do in life was and get out there and get after the bad guys so that you and I can sleep peacefully at night, and that's what he did. And we were skiing one week, myself, my girlfriend, and Dan, and my wife, now Rebecca. And Dan shared with me the fact that he felt that he wouldn't return on this last deployment. He asked me to care for and look out for the boys, now our sons, and which I took to heart. And it was really through that incident, that tragedy, the loss of a real American hero, that my relationship with Rebecca developed. And so that's kind of who we are as a family entity. May is a difficult time for us. Mother's Day, my wife being a Gold Star parent, and Dan was killed on May 29th as well. So Memorial Day, Gold Star mothers, it's a very difficult time for us. And, I appreciate all moms. I really do. My mother was a single parent as well. And I know that Rebecca's still on active duty today, serving as a colonel at the Pentagon. And the fact that she continues to serve as a Gold Star mother.
Well, the fact that you're doing this, and please apologize for
that's okay.
Me cutting you off here, but the fact that you're sacrificing for this improbable Seabiscuit type run for Congress in your hometown makes the story all that compelling for people that are voting in the 1st Congressional District. Much more with the Colonel next. Kevin Miller, or the Lieutenant Colonel, we'll just go with that, here at KIDO Talk Radio. And we continue on. Alex Gallegos joining us here, candidate for Congress. Lieutenant Colonel, retired from the Army, jump master, Canyon County native. Can you believe how big the area has changed since you've been away? I mean, you've always been back and forth, but just in the last 3 or 4 years.
I can't. It's amazing where my mom lives and our house out by the Lake Lowell. The farms are gone, which is a problem, I believe, here in Idaho. Obviously, kids not staying in their farms being sold away, and arable land in Idaho and much throughout the country is getting lost. So that's, While I like the influx of folks, I think that we miss that hometown feel and those Idaho mannerisms that comes along with being a small state in population.
I would say, let's get back to the military. Just coming off active duty, what were the last years under the last 8 years of Obama like for you, and how did if it did influence your decision to run for Congress?
No, it absolutely influenced me. Our military was decimated in the last 8 years. We saw our military overextended in many ways, and I think I shared this in the last segment, that in 2013 we had service members killed. We weren't able to pay the death gratuity, and that was disheartening for me on a personal level. And I promised on that day that I would never permit that to happen under my watch if I had anything to do with it. I also had the great opportunity of working with the Reserves and National Guard, and I know how much they were impacted in the last 7-8 years as well. So great credit to the president for the omnibus bill, which, as a fiscal conservative kind of guy, I don't think that we should do that often, but I know why he did it, and he was put in a precarious position. So improving our military is never a bad thing.
Indeed. Of course, the president yesterday getting out of the Iranian deal. Let's take a listen.
Not only does the deal fail to halt Iran's nuclear ambitions, but it also fails to address the regime's development of ballistic missiles that could deliver nuclear warheads.
And one more with the president.
The deal's inspection provisions lack adequate mechanisms to prevent, detect, and punish cheating, and don't even have the unqualified right to inspect many important locations, including military facilities.
And here we go, back to Alex Gallegos, Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Your thoughts on this?
Clearly, the president has put our adversaries on notice that we're not going to allow them to get away with things that they've been permitted to get away in previous administrations. I think it was a bad deal from the start, $150 billion. Who knows where that money went or came from. Iran is one of the leading world sponsors of terror. So anytime we're helping them, I think that's a bad deal. Not only Iran, I mean, you look at what the president has done with North Korea recently. Diplomacy is obviously the first thing we need to do. And when diplomacy fails, then we have wars, and we don't want to get to war. So I think the president has really done a great job of making sure our adversaries know that the things that were permitted in the past are no longer going to be permitted. And I applaud him for that.
Traffic and weather together. Our time as we continue on. So back to the final week of the campaign. What's next for you?
Yeah, so let me finish with this last thing real quick. So I've been in 4 conflicts, I guess you would say, the Gulf War, Somalia, Afghanistan twice. And I would tell you, you asked a question, the state of the military to date. From the Gulf War, when we had the 100 Hours War and we just dominated, to today, a tremendous difference, right? So I think that we're doing very well in that respect with the president. More for me is grinding. I have to put out more signs, more door hangs, do some robocalls.
Okay,
it's a new
first of all, wait a
experience for
minute.
me.
You're a former battalion commander, is that right?
Yes.
All right. And how many people did you have as your staff? Sir, yes, sir. What was it?
A personal staff, probably about 15, 20 people.
Okay.
Primary staff members. The soldiers inside the battalion, 700 or so.
And you're hanging...
Door hangs, yes.
Do you ever, think of that Talking Head song? How did I get here?
I do not. You know why? Because it's as a selfless servant, as a leader, I always figured myself as a selfless servant.
Right.
One question I get is, what's the difference between where you were as a battalion commander and now? Well, I left the most respected institution in the United States military to try to get in position in the least respected institution in America, which is actually more humorous than having to hang door hangs. So.
Right. So you're driving on. You're very excited for the final week.
I am very excited. Whatever the outcome is, I think Idahoans have the real opportunity to do something that's unexpected. And 2016, we decided that we were going to do that with the presidency. I think we need to continue to do that. And here's a good indicator.
Well, wait a minute. The music plays. It's time to go. How do they get a hold of you?
AlexForIdaho.com.